Hey guys, Casual Gamer 84. Welcome back to the game room. And today you're gonna have like a little, talking head piece, no pickups or anything like that. But something that I done recently is a friend of mine asked me if I could put Botticera on his Raspberry Pi 400, which is a really cool piece of kit. It's essentially a Raspberry Pi 4, 4 gig, with a wider board inside of a keyboard. It's really cool in the fact that you've got the keyboard built into it, and it's not super big. It's a small keyboard. It's about the size of the actual Raspberry Pi keyboard, but it's cool to have it all in one because with Botticera, some cases you do need a keyboard, so it's cool. But that got me thinking about emulation. So if you want to know what I've been thinking about, stick around. Alright guys, so as I mentioned, I was setting this Raspberry Pi 400 up for a friend of mine, friend of the channel in fact, and it got me to thinking, emulation. What's your all's take on emulation? Are you pro emulation, or emulation is bad? We don't need emulation. I'm kind of 3/4 to the pro emulation side. I know that sounds weird, but that's what I'm going to explain. So what is emulation? Let's start there. Emulation is downloading a ROM, an ISO, or something of that nature, and playing it on hardware that is not original. You're emulating that hardware. For example, the SNES 9X is a Super Nintendo emulator. On PC, RetroArch, whatever you can put that emulator on, and then it emulates or mimics the Super Nintendo, and allows you to play those ROMs. ROMs are being the games. Ways to emulate. So ways to emulate is computer, mini consoles. That's emulation. I have both the NES Mini and the SNES Mini. Best emulation for these games, I think. They done a bang up job making these. I also have the Genesis Mini, which is really cool. That's emulation, although it is legal emulation, because these companies have worked with the companies that own the IPs, Konami or Capcom or what have you, to have these games on here. If you own one of these mini consoles and you've not at a minimum Googled how to add games to my SNES Mini, you're probably lying. And chances are, if you have one of these, you've already modded it, or you found a way to hack it to put games on it. What other ways can you emulate? You can emulate with flash carts or EverDrives. Basically, it's a cartridge that goes into the original hardware, whatever the console you're playing. Put an SD card in, flash card, something of that nature, that has the ROMs on it, plays them that way. Raspberry Pi, such as the Raspberry Pi 400, which I showed at the beginning of the video. Raspberry Pi 3, Raspberry Pi Zeros, although these are getting pretty expensive right now, chip shortages or whatever, or scalpers, people just want to make money. So there's that. You can mod a console, such as the Xbox with a Rocky Soft mod. You can do mod a PlayStation too. You can mod a PlayStation. You can mod just about any console out there in some way to play games through emulation. I have a modded PSP right here. So now that we've discussed what is emulation, why would you want to emulate? Um, well, there's several reasons why you would want to emulate. I'm going to start with the reasons why I want to emulate. The biggest reason why I want to emulate is because there's some games that's, even as a collector, unattainable to me. So that I know that if they're unattainable to me, then more than likely they're unattainable to the casual gamer, if you will. And I'm talking about your Little Samsons, your Power Blade 2s, your Pocky and Rocky 2, Hagane, newer gen PS2. We're talking about Rule of Rose, Kuon, games like those that are in the hundreds of dollars, and in some cases more than $1,000. People's not going to drop that money on that game unless you're a collector. And if you're dropping that much money as a collector, more than likely it's going to go on a shelf. Because you've paid that premium, that high number for that game, you're not going to take it out every day and throw it in your console and play it. Because you don't want to tear it up. You want to have it. You want to cherish that. It's an expensive item. So, to play some games that are unattainable, and some of those games like Little Samson and Power Blade 2, they're not going to be on a NES Classic version 2 or anything like that. They're not going to be on any virtual console or on Switch Online or any of that, because of licensing things and things like that. They're not going to be. So, my opinion, it's okay to emulate games like that. Other reason why I emulate games, why I have a modded PSP, for example, is even the games that are obtainable are kind of expensive. A lot of NES games are getting to that $50 to $100 range right now, which is crazy. And if I've not played that game, I don't necessarily want to put a lot of money out for a game that I'm not going to play. And if you've played any retro video games, you know that some of them can be deceiving. Because I can't very well go down to the local rental store and rent the game for a couple bucks for the weekend and play it, and if I don't like it, take it back. It just doesn't work that way. But what I can do if I'm at a convention or something like that, or if maybe I'm just going through a list of games and I think, oh, that game sounds fun, and I play it, I can then, if I like the game, be more comfortable paying $50 to $100 for that one game. So that's what I use my PSP for. Space. Not everybody has the space to put a bunch of video games. In fact, I'm constantly running out of space, constantly having to move stuff around and rearrange stuff. So you may not want 15 consoles and hundreds of games on a shelf. But you may want to, casually play some games. I think that's fine. The third reason why I think emulation is okay is because if it is not current generation, if you're not going to a big box store, or you're not going to an electronics store, or you're not ordering from an online store a brand new current gen sealed game, then you're not giving any money to the devs of that game. They're not getting any cut of that. You're not giving any money to Capcom or Konami or any number of companies, distributors. You're not. If you're buying on eBay, if you're buying used on Amazon, if you're buying at a yard sale, if you're buying used at or pre-owned at GameStop, you're not giving any money to them. So the argument of you're taking money from the devs, you're not supporting them, and they're not going to make more games because you're emulating the game, that's false, because they're not seeing any of that money anyway. And I don't know of any collector. People are weird, trust me, I know that. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to have someone out there like this. But unless you're one of those collectors that only play something that you buy brand new from a big box store and ensure that some percentage of that sale is going to these devs through royalties or whatever, then they're probably not getting it. In fact, I know they're not getting it if you're not buying it new. So, if these companies want that money, then re-release it. Nintendo, if you want money for a little Samson or a Power Blade 2, then I guess fire up those NES cartridge machines and start making some NES cartridges and put them on shelves and sell them at $50 a pop. People will buy them. I'd buy one to have it in my collection and play it. Now, granted, that would absolutely tank the resale of video games, but I'm cool with that. I'm a collector to play. I'm not a collector to resell. I just resell to fund my collection. At the very minimal, make a compilation cart. Get a Taito, get with NES and. Get with a Nintendo and release a compilation cartridge for the Switch that has little Samson on it, and Kiko Cubicle, I think, is a Taito game. I'm not 100% sure on that though. No, it's an Irem game. For Irem, get with Nintendo and do a compilation cartridge, Kiko Cubicle, Metal Storm, and a few other of your IPs. Put them on a cartridge. People will buy that. That's the only way that devs are going to get money from these IPs in 2022. Anyway, I'm going to stop on that rant. So, my question for you all is, do you emulate? Yay or nay? And either way, why do you feel that way? So if you do like emulation, what's your reasonings for being okay with emulation? If you don't like emulation, I'm interested to know why you don't like emulation. So guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Oh, before I go, so not until next time, if you've already done so, hit that like button if you like the content. Hit that subscribe button down below. I'd greatly appreciate if you get subscribed. Ring that bell for notifications, and you will be notified when I post a video for you. Now, until next time.